Welcome, my official welcome to you all. Good morning. My name is Nancy Knorr. I'm the Director of Regional Development for Minnesota Power, which is our investor-owned electric utility serving the Northland and central Minnesota, and our proud partner Superior Water, Light, and Power that serves much of the needs of the Enbridge pipeline on the Wisconsin side of life as well. And I'm also privileged to serve as the chair of Jobs for Minnesotans. We are a coalition of business, labor, and community leaders that stand strong for responsible industry in our state, for that investment that they make in helping us create jobs, support communities, as well as a fair, transparent, predictable regulatory process. And for those of you who have been engaged on the projects like Line 3, the replacement project, that can be a very rigorous process and a very lengthy process. And today, we are standing here with many other allies and co-hosts for today's rally and press event to stress the importance of the economic impact of Line 3 replacement as it defines one of the largest private investments the state of Minnesota has ever seen. And we applaud its benefits to workers, to vendors and suppliers, to communities, schools, local units of government, our state government, and of course, bringing us the fuel that fuels our lives, fuels our economy and our society. So we are here today to urge the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission to deem the final environmental impact statement adequate. I have several esteemed colleagues and allies with us today that want to share a few words with you. Our co-hosts, again, our Ag Energy Alliance, tremendous group that has really seen the nexus of agriculture and energy represented here. Our co-host, the Minnesota State Building Trades and Construction Council, will be with us. Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, as well as a new group of supporters, Minnesotans for Line 3. So I won't hesitate to get to our speakers today as they represent such a broad spectrum of Minnesota and literally hundreds of thousands of our citizens that support the Line 3 replacement project. First, kicking off for our lineup today, normally we would have the godfather of the trades, Harry Melander, but we have a new godmother of the trades in Carly Moline. She is the executive director of the Minnesota Building and Construction Trades Council. They are a founding member of Jobs for Minnesotans. And Carly is a native of the Iron Range, no stranger to responsible mining, but we are pleased she's here today as a champion of working families and of this project. Carly?
Thanks, Nancy. Good morning. It's an honor to be here on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council. We represent 70,000 members of organized labor statewide. These are skilled workers who depend on projects like the Line 3 replacement to make a living, provide for their families, and put food on the table. This project will have an economic impact of more than $2 billion in our state with a payroll of $334 million. More than 2/3 of the jobs on this payroll would be for Minnesotans, including 2,100 Minnesota construction jobs. These are jobs that, again, offer living wages, that support families, and that build our local communities and cultivate opportunities for the next generation of the workforce. These jobs are significant benefit. The jobs are a significant benefit of a project that is also designed to protect the future of our environment by replacing an existing pipeline and a piece of aging infrastructure. Line 3 is not only ensuring a strong economic future for our state, but a continued focus on environmental stewardship. I, along with the Minnesota Building and Construction Trades Council, support the Line 3 replacement project, and we urge the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission to deem the final EIS as adequate so we can be one step closer to putting men and women of our state to work. And I just want to recognize that we have some members of the labor community here today that are advocating for their jobs. This is important to their work and their families. So again, we urge the PUC to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Carly. Yes, you can clap. So our second speaker today is also a co-founder of Jobs for Minnesotans. Cam Winton is the Director of Energy Labor Management Policy for the Chamber. CAM is committed to advancing their mission, which is advanced public policy that creates jobs and grows the economy and improves the lives of all Minnesotans. Cam?
Thanks, Nancy. Good morning, everyone. I'm Cam Winton with the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce, as you may know, is the largest business association in the state. We're comprised of 2,300 companies, 130 local chambers of commerce, and about 60 smaller trade associations. So all of us together, as the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, support the Line 3 replacement project. We support it because our state needs it. We need it in so many ways. If you drove here in a car, you were using gasoline that came from crude oil, that came from Line 3. If you came here in a bus, well, the bus was running diesel that came from crude oil, that came from Line 3. That car or that bus was driving on a road paved with asphalt, which, as you know, came from oil that came from Line 3. If a Minnesotan's ever flown out of Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, the plane was running jet fuel that came from crude oil that came from Line 3. If you've eaten... Oh, I'm not done. I got two more. Who wants to hear them? You want to hear them? All right, I think folks want to hear them. I got two more. If you've ever eaten grain, the farmers dried the grain using propane that came from crude oil that came from Line 3. And if you've ever eaten meat, well, the animals ate that grain. Minnesota needs Line 3. And not only does Minnesota need Line 3, we want Line 3. And I should be clear, we want the Line 3 replacement. As you all know, Line 3's been in the ground for decades. And this is a maintenance and integrity-driven project that's necessary to bring Line 3 up to modern standards. We want it because it's going to create 8,600 jobs, good jobs, in an area of the state that has not enjoyed the same economic benefits that perhaps the Twin Cities have enjoyed. And in a time of too many divisions in our country, I can't tell you how great it is to stand with our friends in the labor movement and say, together, hand in hand, we need this project. And not only will it create 8,600 great jobs, it's going to put tens of millions of dollars of property tax revenues into local communities in the state. So our state needs it, our state wants it, and so today the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce lends its voice to the chorus, asking the Public Utilities Commission to deem this final environmental impact statement adequate and to proceed promptly to the final steps in the permitting process. And let's get this project built. Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
We are so privileged to have our next speaker with us today, and he has traveled this entire state, because I've seen you, in support of businesses large and small and the workers that depend on a robust economy. Federal and state agency officials, regulators, and administrative law judges know exactly where Speaker Daudt stands on businesses doing their best to make payroll and invest in this state. My pleasure to welcome Speaker Kurt Daudt.
All right, good morning. She did say that this was a press event, but I think she also used the word rally. So I know your coffee is starting to flow through your veins, but show me how much you support this project. Come on. I'll tell you what, it's time to make a decision. This has been an extensive 3-year process. Enbridge has demonstrated through the whole course of this process that its existing pipeline system across northern Minnesota is full. That's the same system that meets 80% of Minnesota's needs at refineries for their daily crude needs. That's the oil that gets turned into gasoline, to diesel fuel, to plastics, and other products that Minnesotans rely on. Line 3 is currently running at half capacity because it's aging infrastructure that needs to be replaced. And that's no different than the roads and bridges that we're talking about right now at the Capitol. This is important infrastructure that Minnesotans rely on every day. Minnesota's economy relies on a strong backbone of that sort of infrastructure. If we continue to allow it to decline, we put our economy and our environment and our people at risk. Over 114 resolutions and letters of support from government entities and individuals all across the state have been posted to the docket. Over 2,000 supporters have personally called Governor Mark Dayton to say that they support Line 3. And an administrative law judge concluded that from an environmental perspective, replacing Line 3 is superior to maintaining the existing line. So we stand here today together to request that Minnesota's Public Utilities Commission declare that this FEIS is adequate today. Enbridge has gone to great lengths to follow its robust regulatory process. And I tell you what, I'm proud to stand here not just with Republicans today, but with Democrats. And I know that other legislative leaders like Senator Tom Bach and Senator Tomasoni, who couldn't be here, also support this project. And I'm proud to stand with not just political leaders, but with Minnesotans from all across the state who know how important these jobs are. The time is now, and we need this project approved. Thank you very much.
And we would have loved to have had all of you up here having your chance to share a few comments. And I know we have other state representatives with us today in the room, as well as senators who are with us now. And we have Senator Mark Johnson. East Grand Forks is really rivers and lake country, if you think of it. And as a small business owner who serves all Minnesotans as a member of the State Environment and Natural Resource Finance Committee, I think Mark can really appreciate the need for solid regulations, but not regulations that are a barrier to our economic growth. Senator Johnson?
Thank you. Well, thank you and good morning. It's great to see everybody here, except for you guys in the labor. I'd rather see you out putting together pipelines instead of at a meeting on Thursday mornings. But thank you for coming and showing your support. It's been a very long process, a very long regulatory process, and it needs to be done. The Line 3 replacement project in my district has a significant impact on my farmers up there. You see that the crude oil is being produced, and it's tying up our rails, and it's also being used only half capacity in our Line 3 current pipeline right now. Let's make sure that we modernize that pipeline, we get the latest technology through this replacement. We're able to free up those rail cars so that farmers can get their product to market. That's incredibly important. We saw the tie-up a few years ago when the trains were filled with crude oil instead of grain. So we need to get this project done. I support this, and the PUC needs to move forward on this as soon as they can. Appreciate your support this morning. Let's get this done.
And we have another senator with us today who really appreciates being in the heart of the Enbridge system and the benefits of having that solid corporate citizen in their community, as well as the tax base. Senator Paul Utke with the District 2 Park Rapids is his home, very experienced in the insurance industry. So I think what the senator would understand is the nature of risk and the need to balance a strong economy and a clean environment. I welcome to the podium Senator Paul Utke.
Good morning, and thank you all for coming out for this very important day and hopefully a very successful event. I do live in Park Rapids. I represent District 2, which is right up in the heart of it. I also have with me my housemate, or he joined us up on stage, but I guess he isn't going to be speaking, but he actually lives right where a lot of this takes place in Clearbrook, and Clearbrook being a major hub for the pipeline in our district. And you know, this process has gone on long enough. We've checked it out. We've done everything possible to vet this project. We know that it can be done safely. It's great for our environment. And actually, what we're looking at doing is a huge improvement for our environment. We're up in an area that's very sensitive, and this is just a total step in the right direction. So, like a lot of them have said here previously, we want you guys out there working right now. You should have been out there the last couple of years. Unfortunately, we're still here today, but hopefully it's going to be real soon. This is a great project because it creates real jobs. It's business creating jobs rather than a lot of times the jobs that we're reaching into our wallet and funding. This is true job development. It's going to have continual jobs. It's just a great deal for our area, and particularly where I come from, Enbridge is a wonderful partner already. They are coming through our counties. They represent a big part of our tax base. This is just going to enhance that. It's a win-win-win for everybody up there, and for those doing the work, to the citizens that enjoy our North Country. So I like everybody else, is let's get this project going. Let's get this on its way, and we look for a successful completion. So thank you very much.
bring that down a little bit. And, you know, some of the unsung heroes in our state are our county commissioners. We are so pleased that Scott Schulte is here from Anoka County, but Scott is also the incoming president of the Association of Minnesota Counties. And I think counties in particular know full well the challenge of funding local government services, critical services, and he's also painfully aware of the alternative to pipeline transportation. So with me now is Scott Schulte. Scott?
Thank you. It's great to be here. Again, I'm Scott Schulte, Anoka County Commissioner and Vice President of the Association of Minnesota Counties. In my role as the incoming president of AMC, I've toured all 87 counties in the state twice last year. Visited each and every one of them, talked to the commissioners, and understood their concerns and their needs. I can tell you they're excited about Line 3. 9 of those counties that this line runs through have already presented resolutions and signed off on those resolutions to support this project. The alternative is unthinkable. A line that's deteriorating, that will fail eventually, it's unthinkable. And worse than that, the oil trains that are currently running on the lines, one of those derailments, a fire, an explosion, lost lives. In one of the cities I represent, Coon Rapids alone, there are 30,000 people in an exposure area that FEMA has determined is an explosion hazard of rail traffic for oil. If we get that oil underground in a safe pipeline, we are creating a much better environment for our citizens all across the state. I can go on to tell you that Enbridge has been a fabulous neighbor to all those counties. As I talk to those counties, the reputation that Enbridge brings of being a good corporate citizen, of paying taxes, of understanding how government and county works is really valued by each and every county commissioner through those districts. The increase in suburban oil trains a couple of years ago was devastating to Anoka County. If this pipeline goes in, those trains are reduced through our communities and the safety is improved greatly. In Coon Rapids, Anoka, and Fridley, we have 122 trains a day that run through that double line. Of that, 12 are oil trains on your average day. That is a safety risk that we cannot deal with anymore. The regulatory process so far has been, in my opinion, onerous and unthinkable. I would hope that the EIS is approved today with the PUC and we can move forward with Line 3. With that, I want to thank you for being here. The rally is important. The press conference is important. We need to get the message out to every Minnesotan that Line 3 is important, it's safe, and it's jobs. The last thing I want to touch on is, again, after having been through all 87 counties, there is no resistance by counties to this. There are a couple of counties who have chosen not to take a stand, and that's a political thing, and it has nothing to do with their opposition. It has to do with the politics and the reason that they want to just stay neutral. But from a county perspective, this should be a go. I am the county commissioner in Anoka County that's in charge of pipeline safety. I've been doing this for 6 years. I've never had a single call. We have 22 pipelines in Anoka County, and there's never been a failure. Pipeline safety in Minnesota is fabulous. You people, the ones that build them, the ones that maintain them, you workers, thank you. You're doing the job right, and you'll do the job right in the future on Line 3. Thank you.
You know, what a great reminder that we have thousands and thousands of miles of pipeline that we don't even know exists under our feet every day, under the roads we drive, under our, you know, it's incredible that I don't really appreciate myself awesomely. You know, it's like, why are we not moving this project forward? And I talked earlier about the nexus of agriculture and energy. Our second largest economic driver of the state is agriculture. Perry Osnes, help us understand why your organization felt the Ag Energy Alliance was an important organization to form and why you support Line 3. Perry?
Thank you, Nancy. Good morning, everyone. You stole my line, but Minnesota Agricultural Council is an advocacy organization that helps promote a positive business climate for food and agriculture in the state. So you think a lot of what we do is to make sure that our farmers, our businesses are competitive because they're not only feeding Minnesota consumers, but they're involved in a global marketplace. So certainly energy, access to affordable energy is extremely important. And we are a major user of oil and oil products. So on behalf of AgriGrowth, on behalf of the Minnesota Ag Energy Alliance, we stand strongly in support of the Line 3 replacement. We strongly urge the PUC to deem the final EIS adequate so this project can go forward. And just to support and thank all of you here today because you help us do our job to help feed not just Minnesotans, but consumers all over the world. Thank you.
You've been very patient. We have a couple of important stakeholders left here that we want to make sure have their chance to voice their views of this project, and one is representing our younger generation. I am so pleased to have Eric Forsman with us from an organization called Better in Our Backyard. Isn't that kind of an interesting juxtaposition to the NIMBYism that we see more often? Eric is an emerging leader who understands the importance of getting his generation engaged in these projects and in the regulatory process. And he really represents the voice of those who love Minnesota and want to see Minnesota prosper. My pleasure to recognize Eric Forsman, my colleague at Minnesota Power. Eric?
Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. It's an honor to be here on behalf of Better in Our Backyard. I'm Eric Forsman. I see some millennials in the audience, so I don't feel alone, so that's terrific. But we're a group of young folks, primarily based in Duluth and the Iron Range, who believe that it is our responsibility to source the resources we need for our daily lives in an environmentally responsible manner. In our robust regulations, as you've heard, along with highly skilled workers and scientists, can ensure that we can do projects in the right way right here in Minnesota. And Cam did a terrific job with everything that comes from Line 3. A couple of other things that it's easy to forget that we use oil include the shoes on our feet and the crayons in our kids' backpacks. And no matter how it's transported, we all demand those products from petroleum, and that will continue to be the case for the foreseeable future. There are no other viable solutions currently being offered to replace our reliance on oil and petroleum-based products, and pipelines simply remain the safest and most environmentally friendly way to move those resources to market. And at Better in Our Backyard, we don't buy the narrative that some others have offered that this is really a choice between a world with or without oil. This is a choice between upgrading a pipeline or, as you've heard, putting stress on our rail infrastructure, on our highways. I think about safety when it comes to all of the rural highways that we have throughout Minnesota, and we need to make sure that we're continuing to move that resource responsibly. So, as you've heard, we all want to see the environment protected, and the Line 3 FEIS acknowledges the environmental benefits of replacing that aging pipeline with a new one, built with modern materials, designs, and construction techniques. And in addition to being in the long-term best interest in the environment, the Line 3 replacement project will benefit communities and families from across the state of Minnesota. Folks near the pipeline route will see those economic benefits during construction, locally purchased materials and equipment, and the use of all the local hotels, restaurants, stores, gas stations, and other services. There's a statutory process and requirements that must be met for a project to move forward, and as you've heard, the final environmental impact statement is a thorough and complete document. So the process has worked, and the Minnesota PUC has a duty to recognize the work that has gone into preparing the FEIS. We at Better in Our Backyard, on behalf of the millennials that are a part of our group, urge commissioners to deem the document adequate and put our skilled trades to work providing for their families. Go Line 3.
I don't know if this microphone will go up tall enough for our next speaker. But I've attended dozens of public hearings across the state, both for pipeline projects and mining projects. And, I'm really dismayed what I hear spoken about our men and women of the trades in some of those audiences. These are career jobs. They're jobs held by people with tremendous pride in their work, who care about their communities and the environment where they live, work, and play. So representing today the voice of those people is a member of our own LIUNA, Local 1091, Derek Peterson. Derek?
Good morning. I guess it does go up kind of high.
So as Nancy said, my name is Derek. I'm with the Laborers Union of Minnesota and North Dakota. I've had the opportunity to work on Enbridge lines for 8 years. I've done over 50 integrity digs on line 3 alone. I can tell you that pipelines are the safest, most efficient, and reliable forms of transportation of crude oil available today. Enbridge is by far the safest, most environmentally conscious business I've ever worked for in my 11 years as union labor. But the fact remains that we need to replace this piece of crucial infrastructure. There's a great deal in analysis and final environmental impact statement about integrity issues on line 3. The time is now to build a safe pipeline that fulfills our energy needs for years to come. Petroleum products are necessary in every aspect of our lives, as we should use the safest means possible to meet this demand. Not only is the pipeline industry important for our members' ability to support their families and put a roof over their heads, but the work has enabled the local laborers to have an incredibly fulfilling careers. Pipeline construction jobs are among the best paying positions in the labor market, with paychecks going directly to the homes of our friends and families and staying in the region to boost our local economy. There's extensive training required to hold the standards of personal environmental, of safety expected for a project like this. I have taken several in-depth tests through Enbridge and their subcontracted employers to work safely and be environmentally aware. Anything less than doing this job right is unacceptable, because I just live a few miles away from the pipelines. And to me, our drinking water is clean and pure as it always has been. We rely on permanent jobs in temporary locations. I've been able to support my family for 11 years on these temporary jobs. I hope Minnesota Public Utilities Commission will remember these points when making their decision on the final EIS. Thank you.
Well, if I was at a mining rally, I always save the best for last. I'd have Tommy Rukavina up here, but Tommy wasn't available. But better yet for us, I am going to introduce a gentleman who epitomizes the same combination of passion as common sense. And with us today, representing our newest ally, Minnesotans for Line 3, Bob Schoenberger. Bob?
Well, first of all, thanks, Nancy, for that, and I'm pretty humbled following of all these smart people behind me, so I'm hoping it's not a big letdown. First thing I'd like to do is I'd like to call out the 4 pipeline trades specifically that are in this room, and give you guys a big shout out for being construction professionals that you are. Laborers Union International, operating engineers, International Brotherhood of Teamsters, and we've got members from the United Association here, so thank you, construction professionals. Minnesotans for Line 3 is a coalition of citizens motivated to provide comprehensive facts and information about the Line 3 replacement project and what it means to Minnesota and the entire Midwest region. This may be about a Minnesota permit, but it's mostly and definitely a national issue. I certainly don't want to be that guy who says we don't need or want this, knowing that my views will cause those who can least afford higher energy costs to have to dig deeper into their already depleted pockets and have to decide between heat, food, clothing, or any other of life's necessities, just because I might be able to afford it. Minnesotans for Line 3 are humanists, and we believe that life and the quality of life for all people is important, not just for those who can afford it. Our goals as a group are to provide, one, to provide a complete picture of how energy infrastructure affects us all in a positive way. And replacing Line 3 is not only right for people, but right for the environment too. Also to provide all the facts so everyone can generate a fully informed opinion about energy infrastructure. And lastly, to provide thought-provoking viewpoints that promote positive conversation among all who consume energy. And by the way, that's all of us. In closing, my first thought-provoking view, I would ask that all of you take the time to read a letter by Mayor Lori Ackerman of Fort St. John in the heart of the Canadian oil sands. She wrote this a little over a year ago, and when you read the letter, I'm not going to read it up here, but I'd like for you guys to keep in mind that the United States, just the United States, imports, depending on what number you want to believe, but it's a big damn number, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 8 million barrels of oil a day. That comes over water, comes thousands of miles over water into this country. We have an opportunity to stop that by supporting Line 3. And we can begin that right here by getting the permits approved, getting Line 3 rebuilt, getting it back up to the capacity that it needs to be. Thanks, Nancy.
All right, thank you. All right, so that concludes our remarks today, whether Republican, Democrat, whether you're a community leader, a labor leader, a business leader, we are all conservationists, we're all environmentalists, and we are all resilient. And we need you to stay resilient as we work through this regulatory process. We have today a very critical decision in front of us, but we still have a certificate of need and a route permit process to come. So you might be invited back for more caffeine in a future month coming soon, we hope, late spring, early summer. But today, we want to thank all of you for being here. We appreciate especially our colleagues in the media for being with us as well, so they hear a balanced message from those who support this project. So as we conclude today, I want to encourage everyone to head over to the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission chambers. As we wrap, they should be opening the doors as we speak. And please join us for that hearing and continue to demonstrate your support for the Line 3 replacement project. Thank you.